Grey's Anatomy has been on the air for nearly 2 decades, and even in its 22nd season, the ABC medical drama continues to thrive by revisiting familiar storytelling patterns that fans know and love. Over the years, the show has perfected a formula built on emotional depth, high-stakes medicine, and deeply flawed but relatable characters. Some plotlines appear almost every season. Interns and attendings crossing professional boundaries remains a defining element, dating back to Meredith Grey and Derek Shepherd's iconic romance. The hospital is also no stranger to large-scale disasters, from ferry crashes and plane wrecks to shootings, explosions, and pandemics, which push the characters to their emotional and ethical limits. Messy romances, often ill-advised and emotionally charged, continue to fuel drama, while medical cases frequently mirror the doctor's personal struggles, allowing character growth to unfold alongside patient care. The show also balances heartbreak with hope through miraculous recoveries, reminding viewers why they keep tuning in. At its core, Grey's Anatomy has always centered on complicated family dynamics, using both biological and chosen families to shape its characters' journeys. Adding to the buzz, Jamie Lynn Sigler is joining Grey's Anatomy Season 22 in a powerful guest role. Best known as mezzo-soprano from The Sopranos, Sigler will portray Dr. Laura Kaplan, a urologist living with multiple sclerosis, in the January 15, 2026 episode titled Heavy on Me. The role was written specifically for Sigler, who has lived with MS for over 20 years, and aims to show a doctor whose life and career are not defined by her illness. Grey's Anatomy returns to ABC on January 8, 2026, continuing its legacy of blending familiar storytelling with timely, meaningful representation. Hey, lovely viewers, welcome to our channel Grey's Anatomy Official. 6 recurring Grey's Anatomy plotlines that happen every season. Grey's Anatomy premiered back in 2005, but even 2 decades later, the show continues to redefine television itself. The show follows the lives of surgical interns, residents, and attendings at Seattle Grace Hospital, later renamed Grace Sloan Memorial Hospital, as they juggle their careers and personal struggles. What started as a medical drama has quickly evolved into a cultural phenomenon, now with its diverse cast, emotional depth, and ability to use medicine to tackle heavy themes. Grey's Anatomy has never been a typical procedural that focuses on one patient after another. Instead, the show spends a lot of time building its characters and their own storylines, to the point where Ellen Pompeo's Meredith might be the main character, but she's certainly not the only one driving the narrative. Grey's Anatomy is currently in its 22nd season, which is proof that the show has found a formula that clicks with the audience. After all these years of being on air, certain storylines on the medical drama are bound to repeat. Even if the writers have perfected the art of reinventing similar situations that feel fresh, here are recurring Grey's Anatomy plot lines that happen every season. 6. Interns sleeping with attendings. This one is a Grey's Anatomy staple at this point, because if it wasn't for the interns sleeping with the attendings in Season 1, the show wouldn't even exist. Meredith Grey and Derek Shepherd's Patrick Dempsey on-and-off romance practically defined the early seasons of the show and set the stage for everything that came after. However, it feels like the pattern of interns falling for attendings, and vice versa, repeats every season. Whether it's a fresh crop of residents arriving at Grace Sloan Memorial or new attendings finding themselves romantically entangled with their subordinates, these romances constantly cross professional lines. As problematic as they are, though, there's no denying that all this drama is the heart and soul of Grey's Anatomy. The power dynamics that come into play with these intern-attending romances in Grey's Anatomy say a lot about the medical world. The interns are often eager to prove themselves in a competitive environment and earn the validation of their seniors. However, since the attendings hold all the power, these relationships can get complicated extremely fast. For example, Christina Yang, Sandra Oh, and Preston Burke, Isaiah Washington, seemed like the perfect match in the beginning, both brilliant in their surgical skills and driven by an intense passion for cardio. The ethical implications of their relationship really came to light, though, when Christina risked her entire career to cover for Burke when he developed a hand tremor. That is just one example, though, because you also have Alex Karev, Justin Chambers, and Joe, Camilla Luddington, getting involved in an equally complicated dynamic. Christina herself slept with one of her interns, Shane Ross Gaius Charles, in Grey's Anatomy Season 10, which only highlights how frequently this plotline occurs. Despite the moral questions these relationships raised, this constant push and pull between ambition and desire has become a defining element of Grey's Anatomy. 5. A mass casualty incident or a major catastrophe. Every fan of Grey's Anatomy knows the drill. At least once a season, the surgeons at Gray Sloan Memorial Hospital have to deal with a mass casualty or a major catastrophic incident that wreaks havoc in the pit. From derailed trains to plane crashes, explosions, and even COVID-19, Grey's Anatomy has seen it all, and yet, the show continues to throw its doctors into these life-or-death situations season after season. You have to admit that these major disasters serve as way more than just plot devices, because they often force the characters to confront their personal struggles and evolve as professionals. For example, the ferry crash in Season 3 proved to be an emotional reckoning for Meredith. Similarly, the Season 8 plane crash is one of the most devastating yet defining events in Grey's Anatomy that shaped all the characters' arcs going forward. Sure, some of these plotlines are a bit too far-fetched, like that sinkhole swallowing a whole building in Season 8. However, all these narratives demonstrate just how unpredictable being a surgeon can be. 1 minute, you're navigating your own life, and the next, you have to put all that aside and focus on saving as many lives as you can. Incidents like these practically drive the show forward, forcing the characters to face their fears while making impossible decisions that can change their lives forever. What's great is how the show also sheds light on the aftermath of it all. For example, after the hospital shooting in Season 6, we see Christina questioning her ability as a surgeon after being forced to operate on Derek at gunpoint. The show might repeat this plotline every season, but the writers still managed to keep things interesting. For example, no one saw the Season 18 blood shortage crisis coming. It wasn't as crazy as a hospital fire or a bomb, but it felt just as intense. As heartbreaking as these plotlines are, though, they eventually end up becoming some of the most memorable parts of the show. 4. Messy romances. Intern-attending relationships are one thing, but Grey's Anatomy has its fair share of messy romances beyond that, too. Every season, Shonda Rhimes throws in a few couples who should have never even thought of dating each other, but that's exactly what makes the show so entertaining. Most of these romances are fun to watch, even if they would make for absolutely toxic situations in real life. Two of the most baffling romances in the early seasons of Grey's involved Alex and Izzy's, Katherine Heigl, borderline illegal relationships with their patients, Ava, Elizabeth Reeser, and Denny Duquette, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. The great thing about Grey's Anatomy is how the show doesn't shy away from portraying love in all its complicated and painful glory. From Meredith and George's T.R.N.ite, unfortunate one-night stand to Owen, Kevin McKidd, and Amelia's, Katerina Scorsone, on-again, off-again dynamic in the later seasons, the romances are as integral to Grey's Anatomy as the medical breakthroughs. The writers have a way of exploring the characters' inner turmoil through these relationships, and the way the show combines the doctors' personal lives with their high-stakes careers actually feels very seamless. Let's not forget that Meredith's love triangle with Derek and his wife, Addison, Kate Walsh, was pretty much the foundation of the show. Their dynamic explored the fine line between love and guilt, all against the high-pressure world of surgery. That kind of complexity set the tone for every other romance that was to follow, to the point where every season brings a new set of messy romantic relationships for the audience to follow. 3. Medical cases that mirror characters' personal journeys. Every season of Grey's Anatomy features a few cases that serve as metaphors for the characters' personal journeys. Of course, some of them are plot devices to move the story along and reflect what surgeons have to deal with daily. However, the show does a great job of diving deep into certain situations that serve as direct extensions of where certain characters stand emotionally. For example, in Grey's Anatomy Season 6, Teddy, Kim Raver, has a terminal patient who asks the doctor to help her die by physician-assisted suicide. Owen, of course, has a huge problem with this and even tries to interfere. Fast forward to Season 18, and Owen starts helping terminally ill veterans do the same, which shows his growth as a doctor. Similarly, in Season 5, Erica Hahn, Brooke Smith, pushed Izzy to treat the patient whose heart she had stolen for Denny. The situation forced Izzy to confront her unresolved feelings and learn how to move past the situation as a surgeon. More recently, Addison's return in Season 18, post Derek's death, to help Meredith with a groundbreaking uterine transplant. The case serves as a way for the two characters to grieve their shared loss and put the past behind them. When the procedure is complicated by a clot, Meredith and Addison work together to clear it, which showcases their growth and mutual respect. This is exactly what makes Grey's Anatomy so different from other medical procedurals. The show is not just about medical breakthroughs and mysterious diseases. Instead, it focuses on the psychological and emotional impact they have on the doctors. This complexity and depth are missing from nearly every other medical drama out there, but Grey's Anatomy nails it every single season. 2. A miraculous recovery. There's no denying that some cases on Grey's Anatomy stretch the limits of reality, but things would be pretty bleak if it weren't for a few miraculous recoveries every season. The truth is that the show really builds up to these moments, which is what makes them feel earned. When you watch episode after episode of unsuccessful surgeries, sudden deaths, and terminally ill patients, you need some hope to cling to. Rashida Flowers' Chantal Maurice case in season 18 is one of the many cases where the doctors on the show were dealing with a patient who had no hope. Despite the systemic issues and a hospital-wide HVAC failure, Rashida made a full recovery, which is something not even her doctors could have predicted. Moments like these usually become highlights of the whole season that balance the overwhelming emotional weight of the show's signature heartbreak and trauma. This plotline has been part of Grey's Anatomy since the very beginning. In season 4, a patient and faith healer named Elizabeth Archer, Glenn Headley, came in for a coronary artery dissection. Despite the doctor's skepticism about her profession, she ended up performing a healing ritual on Miranda Bailey's, Chandra Wilson's son, Tuck, after a bookshelf fell on him. Elizabeth's unorthodox ways actually stabilized the toddler, and he was able to breathe on his own again. Not to mention that Meredith definitely deserves an award for miraculously surviving just about everything, from a bomb and a plane crash to a shooting, COVID-19, drowning, and the list goes on. These situations, where patients defy the odds or pull through in ways no one thought were possible, have been a constant part of the show to ground it in something that just helps you connect with the narrative on a deeper level. 1. Complicated family dynamics. At its heart, Grey's Anatomy is a show about humans trying to survive, whether that's against medical conditions or their own circumstances. The show begins with Meredith's complicated relationship with her mother and surgical legend, Ellis Grey, Kate Burton, who develops Alzheimer's. The central character struggles to navigate her own trauma, as well as the lack of a stable childhood, as she tries to build a life for herself. Her friends and fellow interns, Christina, Izzy, George, and Alex, become her family over time, and as we get to know each one of them, we also learn of their own familial troubles. For example, George feels like he is just not good enough for his parents, Izzy's mother is a little too emotionally dependent on her daughter, Christina saw her father die in front of her, and Alex's abusive dad comes back into the picture in season 10. Not just that, but every single character who appears on the show with numerous dysfunctional families has a backstory that explains the person they are in the present. Callie's, Sarah Ramirez, mother refuses to accept her sexuality, while her father slowly learns to support her, and Arizona's, Jessica Capshaw, relationship. Even Derek's messy relationships with all his sisters are a compelling part of the show, while Mark's, Eric Dane, journey of becoming a responsible father is one of the most emotional storylines on Grey's Anatomy. A lot of the patients' stories also reflect the same kind of bittersweet family dynamics that add depth to the narrative like no other. Every season of the show uses this plotline to reflect how we are all defined by our relationships, whether we choose to accept it or not. Jamie Lynn Sigler joins Grey's Anatomy, will play Doctor with MS. Jamie Lynn Sigler is heading to Grey's Anatomy. On Thursday, December 11th, it was announced that the 44-year-old The Sopranos actress has joined the ABC medical drama in a guest-starring role. Jamie Lynn will be appearing on the January 15, 2026 episode as Dr. Laura Kaplan, a urologist living with multiple sclerosis as MS. Her character will be visiting Gray Sloan Memorial Hospital at the request of Catherine Fox, Debbie Allen, and offers Richard James Pickens Jr. a unique perspective on his case, according to Deadline. Jamie Lynn Sigler to play Doctor with MS on Grey's Anatomy. Big Sky alumna Jamie Lynn Sigler is returning to ABC with a guest-starring role on the network's hit medical drama Grey's Anatomy. Appearing in the January 15 episode 2208, Heavy on Me, Sigler will play Dr. Laura Kaplan, a urologist living with multiple sclerosis, who visits Grace Sloan at the request of Catherine Fox, Debbie Allen, and offers Richard, James Pickens Jr., a unique perspective on his case. The role was created for Sigler, who has lived with MS for more than 2 decades and marks her return to television after a 3-year break. I hear it was important to the show's producers and to Sigler that the character is not defined by their affliction and has a full life and a career. Sigler was diagnosed with MS when she was 20 years old and hid her diagnosis for 15 years, mainly because she feared repercussions for her Hollywood career. Since going public in 2016, Sigler has spoken openly about MS and the stigma often associated with it, including on the podcast Messy, which she hosts with fellow actress Christina Applegate, who also has MS. Series increasingly incorporate actors' medical conditions in a meaningful way. Eric Dane just played a patient with ALS on NBC's Brilliant Minds, and Michael J. Fox is playing a character with Parkinson's on Apple TV's Shrinking. Best known for her role of Meadow Soprano on HBO's The Sopranos, Sigler was most recently seen on ABC's Big Sky. Coming up for her is indie thriller The Man Across the Street, in which she stars alongside Terry Polo and Dylan Walsh. Sigler also hosts the podcast Not Today Pal with her former Sopranos co-star Robert Eiler. Her upcoming memoir, And So It Is, a memoir of acceptance and hope, will be published by HarperCollins on May 5. Sigler is repped by Paradigm and Vault Entertainment. There's a new doctor in town. Jamie Lynn Sigler is joining Grey's Anatomy, Season 22. We're only a few weeks away from Grey's Anatomy's mid-season return to ABC on Thursday, January 8, 2026, and we're ready to see how our doctors are doing. But there's something to tide us over until then, a new cast addition. In episode 8 of this season, Jamie Lynn Sigler will portray Dr. Laura Kaplan, a urologist navigating life with multiple sclerosis who arrives at Grace Sloan, at the behest of Catherine Fox, of course, to provide Richard with another opinion on his case. You'll definitely recognize Sigler from her days starring as Meadow Soprano on the award-winning hit series The Sopranos. Or more recently, on ABC's crime drama thriller Big Sky. In addition to her television and film roles, she hosts the Not Today Pal podcast with her former Sopranos sibling Robert Eiler and the Messy podcast with her friend Christina Applegate, where they give insights into their personal experiences with MS, their friendship, and more. The best and worst Grey's Anatomy episodes of all time. Grey's Anatomy first premiered on March 27, 2005. In honor of 20 years on the air and the series' upcoming 22nd season, The Onion looks back on some of the medical drama's best and worst episodes of all time. Best. Patrick Dempsey lists the major symptoms of strep throat. Season 2, Episode 11. To this day, there has yet to be a better or more compelling example of Patrick Dempsey listing the major symptoms of strep throat. Happy Birthday, Meredith Grey. Season 8, Episode 15. Meredith discovers the unknown object stuck in the chest of her patient is none other than Dr. Shepard, who has hidden inside for a birthday surprise. It's a Small World. Season 5, Episode 14. The chief suspects the new anesthesiologist may be a Disney adult while Owen treats a porn star with leprosy. Meredith worries she did something wrong during surgery after noticing a spleen on the floor. Yikes, hopefully nobody out there needs us. Season 7, Episode 4. In this beloved bottle episode, the whole gang gets trapped inside an MRI machine. The Annoying Doctor. Season 6, Episode 21. In this special season finale crossover episode, the good doctor himself arrives at Seattle Grace Mercy West Hospital and starts annoying everyone in sight. When Christina attempts to kill him but botches the job, Meredith must go against her better judgment and save him. Sexual Healing. Season 6, Episode 3. The hospital gets slapped with a lawsuit after a patient wakes during open heart surgery and catches all of the surgeons having sex in the storage closet. Worst. I'm Like a Bird. Season 8, Episode 1. In an attempt at crossover appeal, the entire new crop of interns is made up of the 2013 Seattle Seahawks 53-man roster. A Hard Day's Night. Season 1, Episode 1. The new surgical intern's first shift at the hospital reveals Sandra Oh is about to be trapped in this waste of a role for a decade of her life. Signs. Season 11, Episode 20. Link treats an elderly puppeteer who may be the Zodiac Killer, while Owen punches a CPR dummy. Meredith and Maggie huff nitrous oxide and play flashlight tag in the morgue. The Space U Needle. Season 9, Episode 12. The doctors pay $40 each to go to the top of the Space Needle and realize Seattle is simply not that exciting of a city to see from above. Active shooter, again. Season 20, Episode 4. Fans generally agree that the return of mass shooter Gary Clark, now as an unstoppable titanium cyborg rebuilt by rival Seattle Presbyterian Hospital, was a ratings gimmick at best. Pick one. Season 16, Episode 1, Present. Drop in on any random episode from the past 6 years, and it's a good bet it will be the worst one ever. Jamie Lynn Sigler to play Doctor with MS on Grey's Anatomy amid real-life battle with disease. Jamie Lynn Sigler is returning to the small screen. 3 years since her last time on TV, Sigler has staked out a major comeback with an upcoming guest role on Grey's Anatomy. Sigler will portray Dr. Laura Kaplan, a urologist living with MS, in the January 15th episode, Heavy on Me. The casting comes amid Sigler's own public battle with the chronic autoimmune disease, which she was diagnosed with in 2002 and went public with in 2016. Sigler confirmed the casting on Thursday with a post to Instagram, sharing a first look at her new character. Sigler's Dr. Kaplan comes to the series' central setting of Grey Sloan Memorial Hospital at the call of Debbie Allen's Dr. Catherine Fox, a fellow urologist. On the recent Season 22 mid-season finale, James Pickens Jr.'s Dr. Richard Weber revealed he was diagnosed with cancer, something Pickens just went through off-screen. As a working doctor with a chronic disease, Dr. Kaplan will share helpful insights with Dr. Weber following his diagnosis. Per Deadline Hollywood, the role was created for Sigler, who has become one of the most outspoken advocates for transparency around living with MS and other chronic conditions of its kind. Sigler lived with MS for years before going public with her struggle. She reflected on her decision to finally let her millions of fans and admirers in on her diagnosis in a 2017 interview with the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, in which she shared, "I used to think it was better to have people not know than to have people help me. Over the years, living like that took its toll, not just physically but emotionally." The actress and her friend in the MS fight, Christina Applegate, launched the podcast Messy in 2020, in which they discussed the struggles of living with the condition. "It's not about the specific experience we're having. It's us facing something hard, and it's about figuring out how to still push through," Sigler said at the time. "I've never been more, nervous isn't the word, but like a good anxious about any project I've ever put out more than this, because I care so deeply about it. We are sharing the deepest parts of ourselves." Sigler is one among a recent wave of actors living with chronic conditions and disabilities to portray the experience in various film and TV roles. Eric Dane, who revealed in April that he'd been diagnosed with ALS, portrayed a firefighter living with the neurodegenerative condition in a recent episode of the NBC drama Brilliant Minds. In May, Michael J. Fox, who has lived with Parkinson's since 1991, announced that he will return to acting with a role on Apple TV+'s Shrinking as a Man with the Neurological Disorder. Grey's Anatomy returns on ABC on Thursday evenings beginning on January 8, 2026. Thanks for watching this videos. Please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.